Next from Chicago, we talked to Jeff Berkowitz about the race for Cook County State's Attorney and how the Laquan McDonald Chicago PD shooting scandal is affecting the race. This runs about 12 minutes.
Jeff Berkowitz, thanks for joining us again on the Illinois Channel. And while the Illinois Channel doesn't ordinarily cover municipal or local elections, in this case, one of the more interesting elections happening in the state is the prosecuting attorney for Cook County, where it's being influenced by this now infamous video that came out about the shooting of Laquan McDonald. Give us, if you would, an update on just what is happening here and the ramifications politically of what's going on.
Well, what's happening here, and you sort of see this phenomenon, Terry, as you know, there have been a spate of local shootings by police that are either questionable, misconduct, or perhaps appropriate use of force, or murder, somewhere in there. So that's happened in New York, that's happened in Cleveland, that's happened in Ferguson, and it happened actually without a lot of notoriety in the fall, October 20th, 2014. But those matters have all gone to become national issues, talking about Black Lives Matter, which we've heard nationally, and infused into the presidential race with Bernie Sanders, with Hillary Clinton, with Donald Trump, with Ted Cruz, et al., Marco Rubio. And then they've come back as national issues back to the local issues. So that's where we are as we tape this today in Chicago. We have a primary coming up in March 15th for State's Attorney of Cook County. That is the major prosecutor of street crime, and call it street crime in Cook County, but it's basically drugs and theft and murder and so forth. And you have the U.S. Attorney's Office, which does a little higher level crime, or a lot of drug cases, but higher drug cases. So that's what this office is about. Cook County covers, of course, Chicago, but much broader. Chicago's 3 million people, Cook County's 5 million people. If it were a state, I think it would be one of the top 19 states. It's a big deal. And, you know, if you're a politician, some of this prosecution would come from, if you're involved in bad doing, from the U.S. Attorney's Office, but some might come from the State's Attorney's Office. So if you're a politician, you'd like to control this office, just as an aside.
Well, and even people who don't live in Cook County know of all the murders that's going on, and we've heard, as you mentioned, the police shootings that have just gained a lot of notoriety around the nation. Now, the incumbent who is running for re-election is Anita Alvarez. She was slated by the Democratic Party for that seat, and now, as I understand it, they've deslated her.
Right, after Laquan McDonald became an issue, which was roughly, well, the build-up to that.
Remind us what the Laquan, remind the viewers what this is about.
It's about a teen who, as I said, in the fall of 2014, October 20th, a call comes into the police that there's this guy involved in strange behavior walking along in a north portion of the city of Chicago. And they're going to send out some police cars. The police cars go out. There's 6 or 7 police who observe this guy. He's probably high on some drug, and he's doing erratic behavior, but he doesn't seem to be hurting a lot of people. And the short of it is, after the police observe for a while, he knifes police tires of police cars, and he sees them and he starts going away from them. 6 police are calling for a taser, for backup. None of them has a taser. So they want to apprehend this guy, but they would like to do it, at least it appears, in a nonviolent way. Along comes another police officer to the scene, Jason Van Dyke, and within a minute or less he's out and he's shooting, and shoots like 16 shots in 13 seconds, kills this kid.
And that was all videotaped.
And that was all because we now have, we call them video cams. We have the cams, dash cams. So the police cars have these. They're supposed to go on automatically. The audio is supposed to go on. And that is, there are a number of police cars there, so they pick that up.
And how did Anita Alvarez become embroiled in this as a controversy?
Well, it comes to her to prosecute that, her office. She's got about 900 attorneys, many involved in this. And her office initially sits on it. This tape doesn't go out to the public. Nobody seems to know much about it. But she does. I would say within 2 or 3 weeks, her office, and probably she has access to this video.
Now, in the background of this, Mayor Rahm Emanuel is running for re-election in the fall of 14 for the election March of 15, right? Or actually April, but you...
It's April because we have a runoff system in Chicago, so in February there's the initial election, there's then a runoff that occurs in early April. So in the fall, when this mayor's election is going on with Rahm, in October and November, this is the last thing you would want to come out. So when the mayor knew exactly and when his office knew, we don't know for sure whether he saw it, but he certainly had a pretty good idea, I would say, within a month or two of this. And
Although Mayor Rahm Emanuel says when the video was released, and we want to get a little bit out what brought that about. The video came out in then October, as I recall, of 2015, but the mayor says he never saw it, right?
well, he may say that. It's a little hard to believe because he and his legal department asked in April or so, maybe earlier, I think just before the runoff election between him and Chuy Garcia, asked the city council to approve a settlement, forgetting the number, Terry, I think it's something like $5 million, to the family of Laquan McDonald before they even filed a lawsuit. So somebody in the city, and the mayor should be involved in this, when they asked the city council to approve it, and they did approve it. So ain't no way that he didn't see or know, if he didn't actually see it, what was on this video. He didn't find out when the public did, which was Thanksgiving of 2015, a full 400 days after the shooting. So that, you're right, that's the backdrop, that there's implications of a cover-up leading all the way through the Chicago Police Department, which there have been insinuations of cover-ups there going back to the Grant Park riots in the 60s, okay?
Now, just before we run out of time, the other thing is that videotape was not released for a full year and coming out in October 2015, and only because a journalist had filed a FOIA request, Freedom of Information, and that was either turned down or sat on, I don't remember, but it wasn't released until finally a federal judge forced its release in October.
The release in a day or so before they were going to be required. Initially, the City of Chicago Law Department was going to appeal that order. They decided not. They threw in the towel. I think it was Thanksgiving Day when they released that video, and as they say, the rest is history, because the video is so clear that this kid, 17-year-old, is walking away. And although the police reports that were filed by the police said that the kid lunged at the police as a way of justifying the shooting of this kid, 16 shots in 13 seconds. Clearly it wasn't justified. Within days of that, the state's attorney of Cook County, Anita Alvarez, her office files murder charges against Jason Van Dyke, the policeman. Now, why it took her 400 days, that's why this is now an interesting Cook County race. Because, and she, as you said, she had the support of the regular Democratic organization. It was pulled, but there was Speaker Mike Madigan, and there was Alderman Eddie Burke, who's chairman of the Finance Committee, some would say more powerful than the City of Chicago mayor. They both have areas, districts where Hispanics are important. Hispanics are important in general as a political force in Chicago. They are supporting Anita Alvarez, who just happens to be Hispanic. Other Hispanic leaders are supporting her. Toni Preckwinkle is African American. She is a former city council mayor. They call her a goo-goo in Chicago. She's known as being for good government, but she also knows her way around politics, or she couldn't have gotten to be mayor. She's a darling of the people on the Gold Coast, which is the good government types. And she's also African American, so has that base. And she picks her chief of staff, Kim Foxx, to run against Alvarez. So you have Kim Foxx with the behest of the Cook County Board President or support running. You have Anita Alvarez with the support of Mike Madigan, who's the most powerful Democrat in the state of Illinois, and Eddie Burke, who perhaps is number two. And then Donna Moore, who's less well known, but was in the state's attorney's office, was also a federal prosecutor, is white. So now we hate to say it's about race, folks, but often that enters into it. Shock, shock. So we have 3 women running for state's attorney, which, go women. 3 women running for state's attorney. 1 is Hispanic, 1 is black, 1 is white. There's more to it, as I've just outlined. But what the main thing here, the main lesson, this is a good lesson in politics, how local stuff feeds into the national scene. It comes back into the local scene. And number 2, politics makes for strange bedfellows, right? Because
Look, and not to speculate too much, but a lot of people have been calling for Mayor Emanuel's head for his resignation. If Anita Alvarez were to be defeated, you follow the politics here in the city of Chicago, would that, in your estimation, satisfy those who feel someone's head ought to roll, figuratively speaking, for what happened to Laquan McDonald and the way the investigation was handled?
well, certainly a lot of people are calling for Rahm Emanuel to resign. He's not going to. He's got 3 more years before his election comes up. But they would also like Anita Alvarez to resign. She wasn't going to, but she's running in the primary. In Cook County, the Democratic primary is the general election. So if Anita Alvarez wins, she will be the next state's attorney of Cook County. Your question is, does that satisfy some of the people who want Rahm's head? Will they settle for Anita Alvarez's head? It's got to help a little bit. In that sense, it takes a little bit of the pressure off. If you're a political force, if you're out in the streets and you want somebody's head, and they don't offer you the mayor's, but they offer you state's attorney of Cook County. On the other hand, that may embolden them to say, we beat Anita Alvarez, now let's go after the true source of the problem here, the mayor of the city of Chicago.
All right. Jeff Berkowitz, thanks.
Thanks, Terry.